What is going on, everybody? This is episode 2 of Let's Be Frank with your host, Frank Mattis. Today, I'll be discussing the Eagles' Week 1 matchup against the Packers. I will give you the keys to victory as well as a final score prediction. I will also dive into the Phillies' much-needed series win over the Atlanta Braves, taking 3 of 4, and preview what is on the horizon for them. And I will also get into a little college football, recap Week 1, and preview some of the key matchups in Week 2. So let's talk about those Eagles, shall we? Because it is Week 1, and it takes place on a Friday in Brazil on Peacock, which is something that I never thought I'd ever witness in my life. But here we are in 2024. I'm super excited for this matchup. I, like many of you, am excited to see that the Eagles are back. But just as a football fan, when you look at the Eagles and Packers, you're talking about two teams that are in the midst of a Super Bowl hunt, and I think can actually win it all. Both teams, I think, are equipped to win it all, and Week 1, they face off against one another, and I'm really excited for it as a football fan. As an Eagles fan, I'm nervous like anyone else who's an Eagles fan, regardless of the matchup. Getting a W is very important, not only for our fandom, but our mental health as well, as y'all can imagine. So when you look at the keys to victory, it's really simple when it comes to the Eagles and Packers. If you're the Eagles, it's get after Jordan Love. It is imperative that you get after Jordan Love and muddy the pockets, because if you give him time, he will carve you up, and the Eagles will have a long, long night if they do not get a pass rush and get some penetration against Jordan Love. Because if they don't do that, it will be a long night, and I can guarantee you that. Ask the Dallas Cowboys how not getting to the quarterback affected them in their wild card matchup against the Packers. It did not end so well for them. It is very imperative that you get after Jordan Love, and I think that if you're Bryce Huff, you got to get after it, and you got to take advantage of the weakness of the Packers' offensive line, which is a solid offensive line, but where they thrive is in their interior, but their tackle play is a little bit suspect. Not bad, but not great. It's just kind of there. They are breaking in a rookie right tackle, and if you're Bryce Huff, you got to pin your ears back and feast, because that is a very favorable matchup for Bryce Huff, and it's imperative that he gets after it and get to Jordan Love, as well as the rest of our defensive line. Josh Sweat, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter are looking to have better year 2s and 3s respectfully, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on those two guys, and it's imperative that they go out and try to dominate that interior of the Packers offensive line, which is pretty stout, but I think they're up to the task. Blitzing could also be a factor in this game. Blitzing a guy like Devin White, who's really good in that department, could also create some issues for the Green Bay Packers and free up some guys on the defensive line. So get after Jordan Love, muddy the pocket, don't give him time, or he will carve you up. Like I said before in episode 1, I am very bullish on our secondary and of the future with guys like Cooper DeJean and Kenyon Mitchell, but it's going to take time for them to get acclimated. And if you put them on an island with no pass rush, they're going to run into some problems. So we have to get to Jordan Love. It's very, very important that we do in order to win this game. And the other key is controlling the clock for the offense and having long, sustained, methodical drives, and keep that defense off the field, tire the Packers defense out. That will be absolutely key. With Saquon Barkley there, to me, I think you can take that offense to a whole different level in terms of running the football effectively. They've had success the past 2 years with the guys that they've had, whether it was Miles Sanders in 22 or DeAndre Swift in 2023. But Saquon, to me, is more of a workhorse compared to those two guys, and is a much more dynamic pass catcher. Though those two guys were good as well, Saquon is a different level. And he should get a healthy workload in week 1, And if you can run the ball effectively with Saquon, the Packers are going to try to cheat and load up the box to try to stop him. And then you're left with trying to guard AJ and Devontae and Jahan Dotson and Dallas Goedert. And that's when problems arise for defenses around the league. When you have to worry about the Eagles run, then the passing game starts to get going. And then ultimately you want to run the ball late in the game to get a W in Brazil. That to me will be imperative for the Philadelphia Eagles going forward, not just in this game, but for the rest of the season. So as far as a prediction for this game, I have the Eagles winning 35-31. I do think Jordan Love will find some success with our young secondary, but I do think that if our pass rush can get to Jordan Love, muddy the pocket, don't allow him to have an open pocket, I think we'll be successful. I think we can win this game. And Jordan Love has shown that if you can get to him, he can make some mistakes. If you remember the pass that he tried to make in the divisional round against the Packers, where he was throwing across his body across the other side of the field and ended in an interception. You want to you want to put him in situations like that because he can make mistakes. Though I'm very high on Jordan Love, and I think he will ultimately continue to get better. He does run into some issues when you pressure him. He tries to make the impossible possible, and that is a recipe for failure for any quarterback. And Jordan Love is no exception there. So it's key to get to Jordan Love to slow down that offense and to also get him to make mistakes. And if that's the case, the Eagles should feast if they run the football effectively and pick up on the defense trying to cheat the run, then attack with Devontae and AJ Brown and the rest of your receiving core, Jahan Dotson, Dallas Goedert. And then you also got to then, like I mentioned before, with Saquon's versatility, you have to take into account him in the passing game as well. So the matchups are there for the Eagles from an offensive standpoint. So I think ultimately the running game is going to get it done. I think both teams are going to score a ton of points. I'd absolutely take the over at 48.5. So I'm picking the Eagles to win 35-31 and get the dub in Brazil. Next, I want to discuss the Philadelphia Phillies. They got a much-needed win over the Atlanta Braves in the fight to the NL East title. They take 3 of 4. And, yeah, man, it felt like we are on the cusp of Red October. That was at Citizens Bank Park this weekend. It felt like Red October. You kind of get the sense that, that everyone's excited. And when this team is rolling, at home especially, and you got guys like Nick Castellanos starting to play consistent baseball, and the pitching, going back to how they were playing in the early parts of the season when things are wheeling and dealing at the bank. It's a really tough team to beat, and they have very favorable matchups going forward. They have the Toronto. They're in a 6-game away stretch, 2 games in Toronto tonight and tomorrow. Then they go to Miami against the Marlins in a 4-game series, and then they come home to play the Rays in a 3-game series. They should absolutely take advantage of that and put away the NL East and ultimately clinch it. And then, then there are some tough stretches. They have a 3-game homestand against the Mets, who are looking to get into the playoffs. Milwaukee is a good team. We have to play them on the road, and then you play a 4-game road stand against the Mets, and then they will play their last home series in the regular season against the Cubs. So those are some big series coming up, and it's imperative that the Phillies get after it against the Blue Jays, Marlins and Rays. If they can take advantage of that, I think that they will be primed to close out September on a high note. I'm super excited for Red October, which is upon us. It's a month away. And like I said before, when that team gets rolling and when that team has a little bit of confidence in October, it's a hard team to beat. And I'm very optimistic in terms of what I'm seeing. Obviously, July and August, July to mid-August wasn't so great. There were a lot of concerned Phillies fans, as you can imagine, but they've really started to pick it up. I mean, you look at the last three opponents that they played, the Braves, the Astros, and the Royals. Those are good teams. And when you can win series against good teams going into September and October, that's crucial. So I'm super excited about that. I'm a little concerned with Bryce Harper's health. He's dealing with some wrist and elbow issues. Hopefully it's not stemming from the Tommy John surgery he had a year ago. I wouldn't mind if they decided to bench him for a little bit to give him a rest to make sure that he's 100% ready to go in the playoffs. To me, that would not be a bad idea. But if, he wants to stick it out, let him stick it out, I guess. But it's just something to think about, just to make sure that this team is ready to go come October, to make sure that all our ducks are in a row, all of our guys are healthy. And if you want to, I wouldn't be opposed to sitting Bryce Harper for a couple games, give him some much needed rest to prepare for not just the playoffs, but the tough stretch against the Mets, the Brewers, and the Cubs. I wouldn't be against that. So that's just something to think about. So yeah, I'm very excited about the Phillies. And before I get into college football, I want to let you guys know about our sponsor, Warlord Beard Oils. If you go to warlordbeardoil.com and use the promo code Old Sports, you will get 15% off site-wide. And when you spend $65 or more, that you will get free shipping. So if you go to www.warlordbeardoil.com and use the promo code Old Sports, you will get 15% off site-wide, and if you spend $65 or more, you will get free shipping as well. So let's talk a little bit about college football. It was week 1 in college football. Some pretty interesting outcomes. As far as my winners of the week, I obviously have Georgia as a winner. It was a very slow first half against Clemson. But ultimately they ran away with it in the second half and showed that they were the number 1 team in the country. My second winner is USC. They got a much-needed win in week 1. There's been a lot of chatter about whether or not Lincoln Riley is an overrated coach or not, given how their defense has played over the last 2 years since he's taken the helm at USC. And their defense showed up against a very formidable LSU Tiger team who like I said, they're a formidable team. They obviously get really premium recruits there, and for them to show that they can tackle properly, I know it's kind of a crazy thing to discuss, but if you watch USC football, tackling was not their strong suit the last couple of years, or last 5 years. But they answered the bell, and there was a lot of criticism levied towards USC, and they passed with flying colors week 1. And then the other winner I have is Miami, who I think is absolutely the team to beat in the ACC as of right now. Clemson obviously had a dud in week 1. Florida State, I don't know what is going on there, but this was a team that was undefeated till they played Georgia last year in their bowl game, and their season could not start off any worse. So if you're a Miami Hurricanes fan, you should be really excited for this team now that they have Cam Ward at quarterback. I'm super excited to see what they do, because it's been a while since Miami has been a blue blood in college football. And when they're interesting and they're good, college football is a lot better for it. So I'm excited for the Hurricanes, and I think that the Hurricanes are the team to beat in the ACC. And as far as losers are concerned, Clemson, FSU could not start the season off any worse. Florida State, like I said, I don't know what's going on there. Mike Norvell is going to have his hands, or is got his work cut out for him there. They have to turn it around ASAP, or his job will be on the line inevitably. And speaking of jobs being on the line inevitably, LSU loses to USC, as I highlighted, and Brian Kelly starts off the season with a loss, 3 straight years. LSU has lost their week 1 game. It's not good when you're losing your week 1 game. And though you have a little bit more leeway with the college football playoff expanding from 4 teams to 12, you want to get after it week 1. LSU plays a gauntlet of teams year in and year out, and when you don't start off the season strong, you ultimately bite yourselves in the butt if you don't win that week 1 game. It's imperative that they do so. They haven't done in the last 3 years. So those are my winners and losers. Week 2 coming up, we got some key matchups: Tennessee, NC State. The matchup between 2 ranked opponents. I think Tennessee's a solid team. Their offense looked pretty good. They showed out in week 1. NC State, not so much. They look bad in week 1. I don't even know why they're ranked still. I think Tennessee's going to blow the doors off of them and win pretty convincingly. And then we have Texas, Michigan. If you can see behind me, I have a Michigan National Championship banner. I have been pretty much a lifelong Wolverines fan since I was 6 years old. I fell in love with their uniforms, and then, I start to look at their history or read up on their history, and you sort of, the rest becomes history from there. You fall in love with the culture, the history, and all that, the big house, Hail to the Victors, all that stuff. And I've been a fan since I was 6 years old, and it's a big game against Texas. It's a big game. As far as their week 1 was concerned against Fresno State, I have some concerns on the offensive side of the ball. They have a quarterback matchup between Davis Warren and Alex Orji. And both quarterbacks, not so great. Davis Warren missed some key throws, and Alex Orji was playing well early on in the game, running the football. He obviously had the touchdown pass to Donovan Edwards. Had a wide open layup in the flat to his receiver and completely missed it by like 7 yards. And it was not pretty. And that's concerning going forward, football fan. It's one thing when you have a quarterback battle in, week 1, week 2, week 3, and you don't have to play many formidable opponents. But when you have to go up against the number 3 ranked Texas Longhorns, who are amongst the best team, one of the best teams in college football, a team that I guess you could say natty or bust because they're loaded pretty much everywhere. They know what they are. They are one of the best teams in college football, and they don't really have many question marks. Michigan, on the other hand, does offensively. And also in that Fresno State game, they weren't able to run the ball all that successfully. Donovan Edwards couldn't get going. Mullings had some moments, but it was not the same old Michigan offense that we've been accustomed to seeing the last couple of years in terms of dominating the time of possession, dominating the line of scrimmage. Defense is still pretty good with Will Johnson sealing the game with the pick 6. You need guys like that when your offense is struggling to show out and change the game for your team. So it's very important that Mason Graham and guys like Will Johnson show out big and stymie that Longhorns offense, which is very formidable. Their whole team is very formidable. So you're going to have to rely on your big time players defensively, because it's going to take a while for this offense to get going. It's very hard to, when you're breaking in a whole new offensive line, a new quarterback, it takes weeks, months even to get going and to do what you want to do. And that's a lot to ask for this team in week 2. So my heart says Michigan wins, but my head says Texas. They're just they're pretty much complete, all across the board. And I think it's going to be a tough matchup for the Michigan Wolverines. I think if it was later in the season, I would be a little bit more optimistic about Michigan, but the fact that it's week 2 and they're amidst the quarterback battle, that's a lot to ask. And I know this is, we're talking about the reigning defending national championship Michigan Wolverines, but it's not the same team. And yeah, being at home helps, but the fact that Texas is a touchdown favorite says something. So my heart says Michigan, but my head says Texas. So that is that in college football, and that is that for episode 2 of Let's Be Frank. I am super excited for this week. It is going to be big with the start of the NFL season. Like I mentioned, Michigan, Texas. Sean Brady is taking on Gilbert Burns. I talked about that in episode 1 if you want to go and check that out. So it is an exciting time to be a sports fan, and an exciting time for Philly sports fans as well. So that will wrap things up for episode 2, and I will see you guys later.